there is a reasonable chance you are reading this on one of its devices, and an even better chance that if you own one of its products, you own several. The phone, the watch, the earbuds, the laptop, all speaking to each other, all bound together, all made by a single company in California. And once you are inside that world, leaving it feels strangely difficult, almost unnatural. This is a series about the companies that run the world, and today it is Apple, the company that did not just sell people a product, but quietly enclosed them inside an entire world of its own. Apple is often described as the most valuable company that has ever existed, and for long stretches that has simply been true. But the raw size, staggering as it is, misses the more interesting point. Apple's real achievement was not making a gadget. It was making a world, a tightly integrated ecosystem of devices and services so seamless and so pleasant to live inside that hundreds of millions of people have chosen, quite happily, never to leave. It is easy to forget how close this giant came to death. Founded in a garage in 1976, Apple soared, then stumbled, and by the late 1990s it was a punchline, weeks from bankruptcy by some accounts. Then, its exiled co-founder returned, and over the following decade engineered one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history, transforming a failing computer maker into the most valuable enterprise on the planet. The hinge of that story, the moment everything changed, was the iPhone in 2007. It did not invent the smartphone, but it reinvented what one could be. And in doing so, it created what would become the single most profitable product in the history of business. The iPhone did not just save Apple. It became the center of gravity for the entire company and arguably for the whole of consumer technology. But to see Apple's true power, you have to look past any single device to the thing that binds them all. Apple does not really sell you a phone or a laptop or a watch. It sells you an integrated whole, where the hardware, the software, and the services are designed together to work as one, with a smoothness that rivals selling separate pieces struggle to match. The product is not the object. The product is the seamless experience of everything fitting together. And that seamlessness is also, quietly, a cage, however golden. Your messages, your photos, your purchases, your other devices, all are woven together in a way that works beautifully as long as you stay inside. But the moment you consider leaving for a rival, you feel the pull of everything you would have to unpick and abandon. This is the famous walled garden, delightful to live in, and quietly, deliberately, very hard to leave. The financial result of all this is a number almost too large to feel. Apple has been valued, at times, at more than $3 trillion, a sum that dwarfs the entire economies of most countries. But even more telling than the total is how it earns. Apple deliberately does not chase the largest share of phones sold. Instead, it captures a remarkable portion of all the profit in the entire smartphone industry, from only a slice of the units. That is the genius of its position, the premium strategy. Apple sells the object of desire, the aspirational product people will pay more to own, and so it harvests margins that volume-driven rivals can only dream of. It is content to let others fight over the cheap and the cheerful, while it quietly keeps the most valuable customers on earth and the extraordinary profits that come with them. Then there is the toll it collects, which has become one of the most contested features of the modern economy. Because Apple controls its App Store, it also controls how software reaches its users, and it has historically taken a significant cut, often around 30% of the business done through it. To Apple, this is a fair fee for a safe and curated marketplace. To a great many developers, it is the tax of a landlord you are not allowed to refuse. That toll points to where Apple is heading, away from merely selling devices, toward renting the ecosystem. Increasingly, its growth comes from services, the subscriptions, the App Store fees, the steady recurring income drawn from the enormous base of people already inside its world. The devices, in a sense, are becoming the doorway. And the real long-term business is everything you pay for once you have walked through it. Apple is not, of course, without rivals. In sheer numbers of phones sold, Samsung has often shipped more units worldwide, and the wider world of Android handset makers together sells far more devices than Apple ever has. On raw volume alone, Apple has never actually been the largest phone maker on earth. But the deeper contest is not really between hardware makers at all. It is between two operating systems, Apple's iOS and Google's Android, which between them run very nearly every smartphone on the planet. The entire mobile world is essentially a duopoly, split between Apple's tightly controlled walled garden and Google's more open, more sprawling domain. And here lies a genuine surprise about this titan. Apple designs almost everything and physically manufactures almost none of it. The advanced chips it designs are actually fabricated by Taiwan's TSMC. The devices themselves are assembled in staggering numbers by contract manufacturers like Foxconn. Apple is, in a sense, a company of designers and brand builders sitting atop a vast global network of other people's factories. That arrangement has made it fabulously profitable, but also quietly exposed. A huge share of the world's most valuable products are assembled through a supply chain heavily concentrated in a single region, and any serious disruption there, whether from disaster or geopolitics, would ripple through Apple and through everyone who depends on it. The lightness of owning no factories is also a hidden dependence on factories it does not own. So we come to the question this series always asks of what would actually break if Apple vanished. And here the honest answer is subtle. Someone else would make excellent phones, so the hardware itself is not irreplaceable in the way a lone chipmaker is. What would be lost is something stranger, the organized digital lives of well over 1 billion people, their photos and messages and habits, all arranged inside a world that would suddenly have no keeper. Which leads to the uncomfortable question, in a distinctly modern form. Is it healthy for a single private company to be the gatekeeper to so much of digital life, deciding which software 1 billion people may install and what price a developer must pay to reach them? The convenience and the security are real and valued. But so is the fact that one corporation holds the keys to a doorway that a huge share of humanity now passes through every single day. To be fair, and it truly must be said, a great deal of what Apple built, it built superbly. The design, the reliability, the genuine care taken over how its products feel to use, and its increasingly firm public stance on user privacy are real virtues that its customers value deeply and are not wrong to. Much of Apple's power was earned the honest way, by making things that a great many people simply find better. And that is the deeper lesson of this particular giant. The ultimate power, it turns out, was never in any single device, however beautiful. It was in owning the entire experience, the whole seamless world in which those devices live, and the relationship with the customer that comes with it. Apple is the company that understood, earlier and more completely than any other, that in the modern age you do not just sell someone a product. If you are clever enough, you sell them a world, and then you become the one who quietly runs it.